Hi there, Pride Plant Girl here. Well, I'm in the garden today. I haven't brought you in here very much lately, it feels like, so I thought we'd have a little wander through, give you an update on what's happening in here, and I need to do some harvesting. This will mostly be for over at my peppers. They desperately need me to be harvesting them and doing something with them, but I'll bring the baskets along in case I find more things to harvest. I usually do. But let's have a quick little nose through the garden, and then we'll get over to the pepper patch and really have a look at those. So starting the far back of my my garden here, not a lot I don't think has really probably changed since you've seen it. Things have gotten bigger, but not big changes back here. So this is right behind me is an autumn frost squash growing on the fence. I'm doing my best to keep it in my yard and not my neighbor's, though the neighbor has a clematis behind it and they've kind of made friends. But as far as I know, no squash on it yet. Just starting to get some good blooms, but it is a little bit shadier back in this corner, so might be what's happening. The garlic that I planted this spring, it has the scapes on it. I don't know exactly when they came out, but it looks like they're uncurling, so I'm gonna have to be harvesting that pretty soon. It's not very big garlic. The leaves aren't drying up at the bottom yet, so I'll leave it for a bit yet and we'll see. I'm not expecting a huge harvest off of that, but if I get something out of it, that's better than the nothing I was looking at this spring. So there you can see the scapes on the garlic have come unwound, but the garlic's not really put on any growth there. And the leaves aren't drying up at all. Other than that, there's not much in this bed here. I have some zinnias here right behind me. And then right beside it is my Brussels sprouts, and I have celery in there. The Brussels sprouts, I took the tops off last week just to see. I've never tried doing that early, but I've never been able to get my Brussels sprouts to really bulk up and form good sprouts. So I'm hoping that will maybe encourage them to put on some growth there on the actual sprout side of things. Otherwise, I'm harvesting celery probably at least once a week, and that's what I'm eating out of this side here. Down the way there, I do still have some parsnips and beets and a little bit of kale. The kale I planted, I don't think I really got much coming back up. I think the parsnips have gotten so big they've covered them up. I still have that netted, and I think it's time I need to be taking that net off here soon and just let happen what happens there, because it's kind of just gotten crazy. If you recall from, I don't know, maybe last week's video, I was back in this area here, and this squash plant here was just taking over this space, and I have come through my garden and severely cut back some of the squash that were taking over the paths and things. Cut them back. I don't know, well, you can see here, this is a renegade pumpkin, and I've cut it back to just this one pumpkin that was on here. There's a few more flowers. I've left a few vines going that maybe will produce another pumpkin, but if I get one out of it, that's fine. I'm getting a little bit of powdery mildew action happening in my garden. It's been really hot and dry, so that can cause that. My corn is doing quite well. I have a few cobs that are getting really close. The silks are drying up, and they're getting really close to being harvested. I did plant that in a couple of different plantings, so I'll have some that'll be ready later on and some that'll be ready here in the next week or so. And now that I've cut back my squash and some light can get to my Lena's pole beans, they're starting to look like they're growing a bit more. Whether they have enough time to really get any size on them and get going is yet to be found out here. And the Blue Lake bush beans that I planted are just starting to come up here. I can see I need to move this squash a bit. It's blocking some of them, but they're starting to come up out of the ground. They're about this tall and they're doing well, so that's good. That was that succession sowing I did. I think that was last week I did that. So yeah, this bed's doing pretty well. Across from the bed we just looked at is potatoes. So I have sangre and violet queen potatoes in this bed, and then I have this trellis through here that has some all-American pickling cucumbers, I think they're called, and Armenian cucumbers. The cucumbers are not doing that well. I think the potatoes have just shaded them out too much maybe. but they're starting to come in. You can't see down the way here, but hopefully you can see up the trellis there now. The pickling cucumbers are starting to come up. I have picked a couple off of them. I find once they start going and you start picking a few, then they start to do better. So still just early August, so we should still get some time for cucumbers to be coming on here. This is the time I expect to see them start to really come into their own. I haven't harvested any potatoes out of this bed yet, but they are definitely dying back and getting ready to be harvested. I don't know if you can, how well you can see, but up against the shed there, I actually have shelving with pots of potatoes on them too. Put them right here by my garden this year. They're not getting as much sun as they normally do, but they're right here. I see them every time I'm in the garden, and that helps me remember to water them, so they're getting more water than usual. Hoping that's going to help them a little bit in their production, because I've never had good success with the pots of potatoes, but maybe this is the year. Here's my bed of cauliflower and broccoli and cabbage, and I can see a caterpillar in it. I came out the other day and there was at least 4 or 5 caterpillars flying around in here, and I was like, what the heck? And one of the bars that I keep down on the bottom of the netting, down on the ground to hold it down, it wasn't on the netting, so I don't know if I didn't put it on right last time I was in here or what happened, but that was enough. Just a little gap down at the bottom where there's this much boards between it and the actual bed. And yeah, they found their way in here, so my pest-free cauliflower and broccoli and cabbage might be done now, but I opened it up, got those guys out of there, and I just squashed that one I could see in here now. It's the first one I've seen since that day, so hopefully it's not too big of a problem. I do have some broccoli in here that's really close to harvest. I still haven't gotten any cauliflower out of here, and honestly, I haven't opened this up much to look if I have any cabbage going in here, so we'll maybe pull the netting back a little bit and have a peek. So yeah, there's lots of, these are the side sprouts, I think, off of cauliflower, broccoli that I took a while ago. So I actually could probably cut those and run them straight in the house. These are maybe all side shoots, it looks like. So I'm gonna cut those off here and get them right in the house out of the heat and the sun. Okay, so this plant gave me a main stalk, and then I've just been cutting these little stalks out of here today. That's the last one. So I just took most of the plant down, just to let more air and light through here. And if those butterflies have laid any eggs on it, that's just one less plant in here. So it's actually a bunch of side branches to it I'm going to take out as well. So that'll make more room for other plants to grow. So this plant here, I think you can see there's some side shoots coming. So I had cut a head off of the center here. There's a few side shoots. I did take a couple today, but there's some that are still pretty small, so I'll leave those. This is a young plant, so it'll get more air and have more room now with that other one taken out. And then there's another one back here with just some small side shoots. So we'll leave that. So that's the broccoli I took off of about 1.5 plants. Those are just side shoot broccoli, so they're not huge heads, but they're still like look at that. That's a decent sized head, little bit of broccoli there off of a side shoot. I have cabbage back here. So this cabbage is nice and firm. It's a good head on it. See if I can see a tag. Not sure what variety it is, but it's looking good. I could harvest it now, but I'm gonna leave it a couple more days just because I don't have cabbage in my menu plan right now, and cabbage will hold better than things like broccoli and that. I'll hold it, and that one is a nice size head with good leaves on it. I might actually turn that one into some cabbage rolls if I get ambitious here in the next little bit. If I decide I'm going to do that with it, then I'll put it in the freezer maybe to hold it for a bit. That makes it easier to wrap the leaves later when you're doing cabbage rolls. Let's go around to the other side, have a look, and see if that cauliflower is doing anything yet. There's another moth in here. Because they're not allowed in here. Okay, so if you look way down here, oh, see, there's more moths. Get out. If you look way down here, there's a T-post. It's supposed to be over this netting, but I don't know if the plants are just pushing up too high or what's happening, but it's not really keeping on there very well, because I fixed that like yesterday or the day before. So there's a brick over here. Okay, so what is happening? Oh, look at this cauliflower. This a bit so you can see. This, do I have a tag? Oh, I don't have no tags or anything. Okay, so this, I would guess, is a Minuteman. I don't know how well you're seeing it here. There, so you can see that. It's like a good hand size. All right, that can hold another day or two, so I'm gonna leave it because I did just buy cauliflower because I didn't think I had anything decent in here. It wraps so tight, I didn't think there was anything in there under all this netting. So that's good to know. Take a couple these bottom branches off, or stems, I guess. Maybe that'll keep the netting from lifting so much. Okay, is there anything in this one back here? There's a very tiny head of cauliflower being nicely wrapped up down in here. I don't know if you can see it in there. So I do have cauliflower coming, that's good. I was starting to think I didn't. Okay, so I'm very happy to see that I have cauliflower coming along in here. I was starting to think I wasn't going to get any. We've had temperatures in the mid to high 30s for the last week, and it's supposed to cool down to just the 30s, but that for us here is pretty hot, and to be growing cauliflower and broccoli in that is pretty crazy, but I think I'm getting enough moisture in this bed, and I think the netting provides just a little bit of shade without holding the heat in, and that must be what helps with that. But yeah, I gotta make sure I get all these bricks and T-bars and things on top of this netting here really well again, because those cabbage butterflies, those moths, they're just after my cabbage and the broccoli and things, and I don't want them to get it before I do. I was just gonna run this broccoli in the house quick before it gets too hot and starts to open up, and I saw on this bunch of leaves and things that I pulled off that plant that there was one more stalk, so another quick look. No more. All right, so I'm gonna run this in, and I'm just gonna set it in a bowl full of cold water with a little bit of baking soda in it, and just to help clean off any worms that might have gotten in there, or little flea beetles or anything, and to help keep it nice and cool. And then I'll be right back out to show you what else is in my garden here. Okay, so got that broccoli put away, and as we're coming back in the garden here, thought I'd show you the cucumbers. I just noticed this one's gone astray, so get it tucked back on the trellis instead of trellising on a potato. So this is the other side of the trellis that I have cucumbers that I showed you in the other bed. Obviously some lettuce here that is done. I harvested my last head of lettuce last week, and it was still a nice round head. I don't think I got a picture of it, so we did enjoy that. But a couple here that are just done. All this stuff I'm pulling out and just throwing on the ground, I will come through here, clean up, and chop up smaller and put in my compost bin later on. But so a few little nasturtiums and cucumbers. Now I picked cucumbers yesterday, and I have some that are longer than my thumb on here again, so they're starting to come along on this side a little more than the other side. So I have Babylon here. These are just they don't have a lot of big spines on them. They're a nice fresh eating cucumber, but they do work well for pickles as well. And then I have the Persian gherkins. Now these are getting a little bit on the big side here, but I use these for pickling. I pickle most of my cucumbers anyways, but if I want one for fresh eating or like a veggie tray or something, the Babylon is what I'll go for. And then down here is Quarantine, and there's a few little tiny babies on there right now, but I did, like I said, pick off yesterday. I just made kind of a quick batch of pickles, dills, just to put in my fridge yesterday, just with the few that I picked. So one more lettuce gone to seed here, and that's pretty much what the front side looks like over here. I just realized the sun's probably been in your eyes for most of this tour, so sorry about my bad camera work there. So this is where you might remember I put some more beans in behind the peas. What flavor of beans are these? These are the custard yellow beans, and I think you can see them coming up here. They're coming up better than my Blue Lake bush, but they're also in better, sunnier conditions than tucked under an apple tree and between an apple tree and some corn and a squash trying to grow over them. So the peas, if you saw that video, I was leaving this batch of peas because they were still producing and they had some that need to ripen up yet. And I just saw a bunch. No, I can't see them, but well, here's one. So I have picked one little pick off of these since then, and there's a few more, but I keep saying one more week, but they just keep throwing out peas, and it's my last peas in the garden, so I've just been holding on to them while the beans get growing. But really, the beans probably in one more week will be at a point where I'll have to cut the peas off, and I have something that's come every year. I get something that comes and starts to eat them off. So, and you can see they're not looking healthy anymore, but get as many picks off of them as I can here. With this heat we've had the last few days, I'm sure that's not making them very happy. So, but they've done well up to this point, so I'll take the peas I can get off of this, and a few more for the freezer, maybe supper tonight. Well, a few more peas. Not a lot, but every little bit adds up. So, oh, and I have potatoes. I don't think I talked about those. I have Pontiac potatoes in here, and I've pretty much pulled out the full row here where right next to where the beans are planted. And I've just been getting small little harvests, probably about half a dozen nice small to medium sized potatoes and a few little babies off each pile. They're a little bit early to be pulling them, but just kind of gets them out of the way and gives us some nice fresh potatoes for fresh eating. And I always enjoy to pull a few like that. I could just reach in, dig around, and steal a few potatoes, but I like to get those really little ones, and I find it easier to do that by just pulling the whole pile. So I always kind of count that in when I'm figuring out my potatoes. So, oh, I can just see the moths. So you just see one came in the frame there. They're trying to get into that, trying to get into the cabbage bed there. So let's look at this bed behind me, and then we'll look at the tomatoes, and oh, maybe I'll show you my carrots, and then we'll do the peppers. Oh, and the greenhouse. I haven't shown you the greenhouse, I don't think, in forever. So this bed here has some beets in it. I have a couple different kinds of beets in here. We've just been slowly eating away at them. And in the front, you may have seen the video where I just planted beans in this as well. So these are the burgundy bush beans. I just have a couple rows, and they've come up the fastest and the best. So I'm not sure why that is here, but if it's just the variety, but they are the tallest. I planted all those beans the same day, and these are definitely the tallest over here. I have a few flowers and dill and things in here as well. There's zinnias, there's crocosmia. Just lost my brain about what this large strappy leafy flower is that we grow at Christmas here, but it's in the ground just over the summer right now. But behind all that profusion of flowers there is a couple of kinds of summer squash. So I have a green stripe, I think it is, onyx, that's what that one is, and a yellow sunstripe on the other side. I've been picking off of those. And then next to those is the black turtle beans. And I've noticed in the last couple of days that I'm starting to get beans actually coming on those. So we'll maybe go around the other side, and I'll try and give you a close-up look at some of the squash and how the black turtle beans are doing. So here's that squash. Now it does have a leaf that looks like it has powdery mildew on it, but it doesn't. They're a beautiful squash. So I've been picking and eating, oh, can't really see them yet. Picking and eating these, and the onyx. It's just kind of a dark green. I don't know if there's any in there to see right now. They're way back there. I don't know if there's any on there right now. Probably is. Seem to always come across large ones there. But here's the black turtle beans, and you can see some beans coming on in there. So they're doing well. So the black turtle beans will get left until they're dried, and I'll just pull them all up. You see lots back in here. Hopefully you can see all those guys in there. So like I said, I'll just wait, and once they're dried, I will pull them and shell them, and they'll just be saved for dried beans. So this is my tomatoes, and boy, I don't know what I was thinking. I have sweet meat, squash, and rouge vif de Tempe planted in here with all of my tomatoes. Sometimes I question my sanity. So although I like a jungly garden, I do like my tomatoes to be a little more tidy, let's say. And they are not, but I have really nice tomatoes. This is the Elizabeth. I don't know how you can see that guy there. So this is a paste tomato, doing well. This is all paste tomatoes back here. Like they're so big, they're just knocking. And the vines from the squash, I don't know if you can see this, but the vines from the squash are taking over my posts for the tomatoes. I don't know how I forget every year how aggressive squash are, and then I go and I plant them in stupid places. It's just because I'm trying to get so much in here, but yeah, there was a squash with an actual sweetmeat squash on it hanging off that tomato plant. But there's still tomatoes on it, they're still growing, but so what you can see right here is pretty much green still, but as you can see out front there, I've got some that are ripening. So this is the black vernissage right here. Last year I had a free packet of green vernissage that was sent to me by a company, and I grew them. I said I hated them, and I cannot remember who it was, but one of my viewers suggested that even though yes, the green is not a delicious tomato, to try the black. And it is really nice, and it's a beautiful tomato. Like, it's so stripy. Like, look at that. It's just a gorgeous tomato. I don't think that's showing up on the camera very well. Maybe if I do this. Very pretty, and it is a tasty tomato too. So I've had a few. They're not getting huge. I'm not sure what size they're supposed to be. This is about the size they are, but this is soft. This is ready to eat here. Lots and lots on it. So I don't know. I didn't actually do a lot of research on it. I just tried it on recommendation. And it's tasty. It's not very big, so I'm not sure if it's supposed to be kind of like a salad type tomato or what, but it's good. My Manitoba tomatoes are ripening up nicely in here. So here's a Manitoba. You see the size difference there. So the Manitoba is a bush or indeterminate type tomato. So, sorry, a bush or determinate type tomato, and so they will set most of their fruit in a short period of time. Here in Saskatchewan, Canada, we don't have a super long season, so by the time they start setting fruit and it ripens, it's all kind of the same amount of time in my mind here. But these are a nice one that I use them canning and sauces and things, but I love them for fresh eating as well. It's one of my favorite tomatoes, and they grow really well here. So several plants of that. And some of my bigger tomatoes are around the other side. I don't know if I have any ripe yet, but we'll have a quick look and see what they're looking like. I may just have to take the, is this the sweetmeat down here? No, this is the Rouge Vif de Temps. I might have to take this out. It's looking like it's got some really bad powdery mildew in there. So I don't know how you can see the tomatoes ripening up in there, but there's lots in there. So yeah, this is that Rouge Vif de Temps, and it definitely has some powdery mildew happening here. So I might wind up just taking it. I've never been able to get a squash off of one of these anyways, so maybe best just to pull this sucker out. Here is some Japanese black Trifeli tomatoes. No, this one here is a black crim. I was like, that's not the right shape. So I don't know how you can see it there, but that's a black crim right there. The black Trifeli are back. They have just a little bit different shape to them. I don't know if you'll be able to tell on camera, but they are coloring up here. And what else do I have back here? Some Thornberry's Terracotta and some Mortgage Lifter. And those both have lots of tomatoes on them, but none look like they're ripening up yet. But I am going to be in tomato business pretty soon here. So I'll be making lots of sauces and salsas and I don't know, just delicious tomato things every day. I love tomatoes. I don't think I've shown you this, but I've moved my compost bin back behind the greenhouse here. I also have a couple of rain barrels. I put a little bit of guttering on the roof of the greenhouse. So the back of the greenhouse, as you can see, looks more like a shed because I do have it all wood on the back except for one window because it's facing north. It does get some morning sun, but not a lot. But this is where I've decided to try and have my compost going. It's always recommended to keep it more in the shade, but I've always had mine out in the sun, and I'm not sure yet. I'm just playing around with it to see if maybe here in my climate, maybe out in the sun is a better place. But I haven't been working on hot compost this year. I just been kind of doing the lazy layer stuff in as I get it method this year, but it does seem to be breaking down and doing its thing. So we'll continue to play around with that, and I'll let you know as I decide how I feel about it. But around the corner is my carrots. So this is my carrot bed, and I did try putting my onion sets in here. I don't think I'm going to do that again, but they just got tangled up and it wound up knocking the stems of the onions over. They were just too closely planted, so my onions are not sizing up at all. But you know, you gotta try things, and sometimes it's a win, sometimes it's a fail. Another fail would be I put this carrot bed over here thinking that I would get enough sun. Now I knew when I set my greenhouse here, this is kind of the only good place in my yard, that because I didn't want it to just stand out in the center of my entire yard. And I knew that there's a maple tree actually kind of behind me, and I knew it would get some shade, which was fine for me in the summer. It gets a lot of morning and afternoon sun. It's just kind of the late afternoon that's really shading the greenhouse windows here at this time of year. But when the leaves are off the tree, it's getting all that sun. So in the early spring and the late fall, I will get that extra sunshine in my greenhouse, and that's kind of what I wanted for that. It would get really hot and be even more difficult to manage the heat and things in there if I didn't have that late afternoon shade going in there this time of year. So that's perfect for the greenhouse as far as I'm concerned and what I want from it. But I didn't realize how little sun these guys would get. I don't know why I didn't think about that. Like, the sun's not shining through the greenhouse windows and over to this space here for that morning and early afternoon sun. So the carrots really are not getting much over here. I have harvested some, so I think you can see it's kind of an empty space here. That's not just because the onions. There was some, what did I have in here? Littlefinger, I think, and some Parisian. The Parisian were a free packet I decided to try. I really grow the carrots for my husband. He loves raw, fresh carrots, and my daughter will nibble on them sometimes too. And they both agreed that was just weird. The Parisian carrot, at least the ones that I received, are just a little round carrot they don't have like a long stem or anything on them, and they didn't like that. So I won't bother growing those again. But I've replanted in here, what did I put in here? I think Adelaide and Littlefinger. I have 2 rows that I've replanted in here. And then the rest of these, I mean, they are growing, but they're not getting a lot of size on them. So normally I would have had a few harvests and a few re-sowings in here, and that's just not happening this year. But you know, you got to try things. I think I'm actually going to move this around and put it at the back, and I might wind up moving my compost around the corner over to here next year. And I think these will get more sun back there, and the compost will get that more shade that I'm trying to achieve with it over on this side for the summer. And then in the winter, in that again, it'll be getting more sun, like in those shoulder seasons where I want a little more heat in it, in the compost, it'll be getting more sun. So that might be the road I need to take with these, but not much to report other than that. A little bit of a fail this year, but we are getting a little bit of carrots, so it's something. Let's look in the greenhouse. I'll show you what I've growing in there. I'm not even sure. I must have taken you in there at some point, but we'll have a little look. And then the peppers. So here we are in the greenhouse. And you can tell the lighting has definitely changed when you come in here from outside. It's less harsh, but hopefully you can see there is still lots of sun coming in that east window there. This is still the morning, so we still have the east morning sun. And then we'll get the south sun coming in the front of the greenhouse here. And we do actually, I get quite a bit of sun in here. It's maybe not perfect amounts of sun, but it is, I think, a better compromise to have what I have going on here than to have the full-on heat of the day all day going in here and try and control the temperature. I have some, this is I think a tip-top melon here, so a cantaloupe coming along here. I'm a little disappointed in my cantaloupe. I have been going around and trying to hand pollinate them. My Minnesota midget, as far as I can tell up in this jungle, has 0 cantaloupe coming off of it, and I just have the one tip top. Now it seems to me last year that my cantaloupe took a little bit longer to kind of get going, so maybe they're still gonna do something, and I will have a little bit longer season being that they're protected in here a little bit. Yeah, so that's the cantaloupe, and then I think you can see down most of the way here. So I have I believe this is a Moon and Stars. The leaves don't look right, so it might be, this might be an early Canada wonder here. Oh, and it's split. I didn't realize that. How sad. Is that uneven watering? I don't know. You melon growers. This is only my second year actually getting melon off of anything. How sad. I don't know what makes that happen, but well, hopefully the rest haven't been doing that. This one is, I think a scaly bark melon. No. Yeah, that looks like scaly bark, and I think I have another one over here. And can you see that far? And I have two more. I think these, oh no, this must be Sweet Siberian. I'm trying to remember from last year what they looked like. Sweet Siberian there maybe, and then scaly bark. There's one down low and there's one up kind of behind the leaves up there. So I think the biggest one I have right now is about that big. These are growing in my 3x6 fabric raised bed down here. So it's a little bit tricky to get up on a stool and try and pollinate everything, but I've been trying my best to hand pollinate. I do have one square in this raised bed of, I think this is a Pontiac potato. I have it marked down somewhere. And then if you remember, I had grown some sweet potato slips, and I have those growing in here as well. So I have two squares out of the 3x6 bed of sweet potatoes, and I have a, I don't know, about a 12-inch, 30-centimeter round and about tall bucket back in the corner back there with sweet potatoes in it as well. I've never grown sweet potatoes before. I have no idea if I'm doing it right. No idea what they're supposed to be doing, except hopefully making some sweet potatoes under the ground. I'm just thinking I need to wait for the plants to die back, and we'll see what's under there. I don't know. Put it in the comments down below if you do know, which I'm sure some of you do, but it's not really a common thing that a lot of people grow around here, so I'm just giving it a try. I'm also trying some sweet potatoes out here. So these are my really large like pots that I bought. The city used to have for boulevard planters. And this one has baked potato squash and a sweet potato vine in it. So I have some squash on here somewhere. I saw them. Not on this one. Oh, here. So that's the baked potato squash. Only the one, lots of flowers, and the sweet potato vine isn't real huge in this pot either, so I'm not sure. And then I have another pot with a similar kind of planting, just down there. So the last one had a baked potato squash in it. This one has the mashed potato squash in it. And again, I do have squash on it. This one actually has a few. They're really white right now. I think these are supposed to turn tan. This variety, one of them is supposed to turn tan on the outside when they're ready, but there's, I think, 4 or 5 in here. And then here's the sweet potato vine. So it seems happier, and actually this one is flowering. So are they supposed to flower? Is this a good sign? Is it like regular potatoes? That's showing they're getting mature? I don't know. But it's a pretty flower. Didn't even know it was in there. But yeah, so sweet potatoes, hopefully, and squash, definitely. Now, peppers. I have so many peppers that are ripe out here. Probably more red ripe peppers than I've ever had, and I really need to get picking them and doing something with them. If I get past the jungle of dill and borage. So these here are my Hungarian hot wax. They're starting to dry and shrivel up, some of them even. So I'm gonna pick all of these off, and then I'll show you what I have in the end. I'll pick all the red, and I think there's a few kind of orange in here as well. And I also have some Sugar Rush peach back here. Check those out. Gorgeous. So lots of hot peppers in here to harvest right now. Wow. So I knew I had quite a few in there, but it's quite a basket full. So there's the Sugar Rush peach and Hungarian hot wax. I normally pick my Hungarian hot wax like around that stage, even towards the end of August. So to have so many that are orange and red and beautiful colored like this, it's going to make for some beautiful pickled peppers that I don't normally get. So beside those is my jalapenos. Tons of these as well, several that are red. So I'm going to go through and do a pick on those as well. So I dumped my basket out, just dumped those hot peppers in with the peas and the couple tomatoes that I picked. And I'm going to go through the jalapenos. And I'm just going to mix them together. I have some that are Monet, that are a hotter jalapeno, and some that are called a jalapeno mild. I'm just going to mix them all together because I'll just be pickling them, probably making some cowboy candy with them. And I'm going to go through first, see what I have that's red. And then I'll be coming through and picking some of the larger green ones as well, just to hopefully get enough for what I need. So I only had a few that colored up in the jalapenos there. I've just picked a nice little selection. There's still lots on the plants if I need more, but I didn't actually check my recipe to see how many I need. And I don't want to make a huge batch of the cowboy candy because I just don't go through that much of it, but I do want to make a few jars of it. So we'll start with that, and I can always come out and add more peppers to the mix if I need to later on. So now, except for some serranos at the far end, that's all my hot peppers. So while we work our way down to the serranos, let's have a look at the sweet peppers. Right here is my candy cane peppers. Hopefully you can see the striping on them and the mottling on the leaves. That's what they're supposed to do. I have one that's back here that's ripe. There's one plant that's not getting as much striping. That looks like the one that's ripe here. So we'll see if it got, yeah, it didn't really get much striping on it. But the plant does have the mottling on the leaves in that. And there is some striping on the green peppers. But it's not getting its same look that they usually get. Tie that back up there. This guy's really wanting to hang low. There's another one here I'm going to take. It's not quite ripe all the way. It's looking really nice. I think you can see a bit more how the striping happens on the candy cane. It's disappointing because these usually do have more of a stripe to them. But I can tell I wasn't managing this plant very well. And I'm going to have to come in and do something maybe to get it tied up before it breaks off. I do have, I think this is Matchbox chilies in here. I don't know how you can see all the red chilies in here, but I'm just going to leave these to grow and ripen and dry on the plant, and then I'll just use them to make chili flakes and chili powder later on. This is in that same pot, just on the other side of it, and I have Early Prolific over here. I have some that are starting to turn color. So that's your Early Prolific. And way at the back, where you can't really see, I have Antoi Romanian. I have some red ones here. These, I think, are actually the candy cane. They were in the back there, and just the way I was kind of manipulating myself to get in there, it was hard to tell, but I think these are more the candy cane. Yeah, they have a bit of that striping. I don't know how you can see it. Well, it shows up in the camera there. But, so those are more candy cane. The Antoia Romanian back in there. Hopefully you can see them. They're kind of yellow right in there. They both turn kind of an orange, but I usually wind up with them mostly just yellowy white. So this pot here has California Wonder. It has my mini bells, and what else is in here? Sweet lipstick. So here's a sweet lipstick right here. Nice and ripe. This is the perfect time to pick these. They get so sweet and delicious like this when they're this dark, dark red. Oh, and I have some sweet bananas back there too. It's just a few, maybe 5 sweet banana peppers. There's, well, at least a dozen, I bet, sweet lipsticks that are still green. And then this. And I've been picking the biggest early, what did I say these were? California Wonder I've ever picked. So I just picked a few the other day. And here's another one, and these are heavy too. And I can see color back here. Oh yeah. These little mini bells are usually my favorite. And this year the only ones that are coloring up seem to be these really tiny ones for the most part. Disappointing because there's a lot of seeds in there. So that's not really fun to eat. But there's lots on there, so hopefully they'll get some more color soon. So that's all I'm gonna pick out of this pot. Right here is my little cherry tomatoes. So I have a whole pot of cherry tomatoes. I have Sun Gold, Super Sweet 100, Elfin, and Cheesemans, I think. The Cheesemans, I don't think I have gotten a single one off of it. I can hear a bee in here just buzzing away. The Elfin, they're kind of a smaller grape style. I've had 1 or 2. They were kind of mealy to me. So see, I'll leave them. Maybe they weren't quite ready. I'm loving the Sun Gold. Thank you for the recommendation. Sorry it took so long to actually try them. And the Super Sweet 100 are a pretty good cherry tomato as well. So they're nice and sweet, and the little red one. Nice contrast with the kind of orange color of the Sun Gold. So they've been nice to have together in veggie trays and things. So the last pot of peppers and the last thing we're going to look at today is right next to me, right back here. This pot here has my Sweet Sunrise in it. And this is the first year I've tried these. But they're a really pretty little pepper. So these are a bell pepper, a sweet pepper. I haven't had one that's ripe yet, so that's gonna be fun to taste that and try it out. And then I have my Serranos. These are called Pathfinder. So this is my first year trying a Serrano. And I have one coloring up there, just starting. So watch that one. I don't mix it in with the rest of my sweets. But I think the rest of the Serranos are still pretty green. There's a few more getting a little bit of color like that one, but I'll leave them to actually color up properly. And then I do have a couple of eggplant on this side. I've been harvesting the eggplant off of here for a while. My Black Beauty is just starting, oh, I'm making the bees angry, is just starting to set fruit on it. So here's those eggplants. So you see those long eggplants, these are nice. When I first grew them, I wasn't sure what to do with them, but now I enjoy them on the grill or cut up and just, you know, fried with other things. There's some basil in here as well. And then you can see, hopefully you can see that there. So this is the Black Beauty. It's just starting to set fruit. Oops. It's just starting to set fruit, so it'll be a little while yet. And there's one of those bees I've been annoying while I'm over here. And I just remembered one of my last videos of the garden, I planted some Gold Marie pole beans up this little trellis here. So they have come up and they're doing well back here. So I'll just need to get them trained to go on the trellis because they're floating away from it, and that happens. So I managed to harvest quite a few peppers in this little tour and a good amount of broccoli. So the broccoli, of course, is inside, and I have those few little handful of peas and a couple of tomatoes. So you got a tour to see what's going on in my garden, and I got a harvest. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.